Lovely seats here.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. This is a meeting of Frome Town Council. I'm Peter Wheelhouse, Town Clerk. And I'll be chairing this evening's meeting until we have a formal vote to elect a chair. Just to remind everyone, we've got people online and here in the room. For those in the room, a little housekeeping. The emergency exit is in the rear corner of the room here, and the assembly point is at the far side of the car park. Toilets are at the end of the corridor behind the double doors there, and there is also an accessible toilet to the right of the lift. Help yourself to a cup of tea. Tonight I will clerk. Laura, Sarah, Becca, Sian and Rachel will manage the minutes, questions board, participant settings and the IT generally. And the meeting will be recorded and made available on our YouTube channel. For those councillors attending via Zoom, please use the yellow hand, and for everyone else, please ask questions through the Q&A board. So first on the agenda is we need to waive standing orders to enable a councillor other than the chair or deputy chair to chair this meeting. Do we have a proposal from Andy Jones, seconded by Nick Dove? Yeah. Okay, so Richard, are you voting? 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's unanimous. We now move on to election of the chair. Do we have any nominations for chair tonight? Nick?
I nominate Sarah Butler.
So that's proposed by Nick. Sarah?
Second.
Seconded by Anne. And all in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's a majority. Thank you. Sarah, would you like to take the chair, please?
I would. May I have my notes, please? Thanks, colleagues. I think the first item is apologies, and we have apologies from Carla, Anita, Fiona and Lisa. Can I have somebody to propose that we accept those, please? Holly Lamb, proposed. Lindsay Mayhew, second. All those in favour?
It's unanimous.
Thank you. Also need any declarations of councillors' interests on any items on the agenda this evening? Are there any? No. And we need to accept the minutes of the last meeting. So could I have somebody to propose that we do that? Thank you, Andy Jones. Seconded by Richard Pinnock. All those in favour?
It's unanimous.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Next item is questions and comments, firstly from councillors. Any questions on the last agenda or anything pertaining? Any comments or questions from members of the public? Great, we're speeding through. Oh yes, sir.
Very much. My name is Chris Wildridge. I was here last month and asked a question about two issues which I come to again. The first question I asked was about the financial implications of the situation with regard to Badger Hill upon the council's finances. And my recollection of the meeting is they were brushed aside as of no significance. And of course we have a paper which you're going to discuss later, and when I shall have gone. So that's the first issue I want to raise, my concerns about the financial implications for the council of the events in Badger Hill. There is a line in your budget of, I think, about £300,000 for income from Badger's Hill. And presumably, if your paper is correct, and I may be misunderstanding it, that money may not be forthcoming. So that's the first question. And my second question is really in relation to item 7 on your agenda. The Local Government Association peer review was quite critical of the council in terms of its structure and interactions between members and officers and their different roles. And I have read the report, so and I'm sure you all have too. My question is, has the review of the management structure, which you're seeking approval for tonight, been taken in the light of the LGA peer review or not? And if not, why not?
Peter?
I think there was first of all a question regarding figures that are within our budget. And I've just asked Sarah Williams, our RFO, if she can confirm what is in our budget alongside Badgers Hill.
It's certainly not 300,000 in income, so I will have to go and look at the budget to get the precise figures. Thank you.
And I think Fiona has her hand up, maybe would like to answer this question.
Yes. Hi, Chris. I think you're referring to me. I think it definitely wasn't swept under the rug. I think there were two separate issues here. There was the audit of the CBS accounts, which I think I was just very clear that that's, you know, the CBS was a separate organisation to us, a different legal structure, different governance, so it doesn't come under us. If you'd stayed for the rest of the meeting, Chris, you would have seen that we discussed, we agreed the risk register as part of that meeting. And on there were a number of items that are flagged related to Badgers Hill. So we are very much aware that it is a risk, and that is why we're taking so much action on it at the moment. Sarah will need to double check those figures, but I'm fairly certain that against Badgers Hill, there is 32k income. That is from memory. I obviously have not memorized every single line in the budget, but I'm fairly certain that's correct. But Sarah will double check for you. And it is in the public domain that the debts outstanding related to Badgers Hill are now over 50k. So we are very aware of that. And that is why we are taking action, the action that we are doing at the moment. And then I think it's up to Zara whether or not she allows a question about the next item on the agenda, because we only talk about items on the agenda when they come up. But I will say that the management review is part of our improvement plan, which sort of came out of the peer review, but is also a much broader piece of work, looking at the organisation as a whole, rather than just responding to the peer review. It includes that, but it is part of that, and it's part of that response, and it's part of us transitioning to, you know, to being a different council and making sure that we are sort of future-proofing ourselves. That's a proposal for tonight, but that is a later item, so it's not up to me to decide whether or not we, discuss that now.
Thank you, Fiona, and I will defer that till later on for the agenda item, if that's okay. Any other questions? Lenka?
Hi, it's not a question. I just wanted to just to point it out really for information. Fairfield is experiencing sort of a higher demand at the moment, in particular rough sleepers. I'm understood to believe that Somerset is has the third largest number of rough sleepers in the country at the moment. And yeah, we have a particular impact on us. This is like daily. We're having people coming in for showers, hanging out, people with severe mental health issues. So it is a real issue. And also lots of families have struggled over the Easter holidays because of the free school meal vouchers system changing, which was, came down from the government, but people have not accessed those vouchers. It's become really difficult. So yeah, just wanted to raise awareness about that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any comments or observations on that? Adam, yeah.
Sorry, it's not on that. Maybe we can talk afterwards. So it's not other questions and comments. Last meeting I took away a question, I think, from Lindsay about the Barrow Man, if we're allowed to call them that. They are being replaced. Somerset Council Intent has just advertised the vacancy of litter bin emptier and street cleaner for Frome especially, but that advert closed last week, so I'm hoping to find someone to do that job. In the meantime, other staff from other areas are covering, and if there are any current concerns, could you let me and others at Somerset know? Other things, the leisure centres, the plan still is to find a new operator for the Somerset Council can make an arrangement for 2 years with from before the end of June, so that the Frome Leisure Centre and the other four in former Mendip continue to operate as they are now. And then in the next 2 years, find another way of finding someone else to run them or continue that in another arrangement for the long term. That hasn't changed. Education consultation, the decision will be made to whether to rearrange the Frome and area schools into a 2-tier system from the current 3 if stakeholders, schools and others are in agreement, and that will make decision to proceed to a consultation in the summer will be made in the next few weeks. And lastly, Packsaddle, a bit of digging around by a former senior planning officer for Frome has revealed that the Packsaddle fields, at least half of them, were designated as a public open space in the Frome local plan in 1992 for at least 10 years, and then that policy was lost. So on that basis, it all helps, I think, the case to remove the fencing, so I'm going to try and do that at Somerset Council, and hoping the petition does better as well. We can get that debated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions for me at all? I don't know.
Questions on Packsaddle, Lindsay?
Yeah, Adam, it was actually on the Barrow man or Barrow person. Have you seen the advert? Will it be someone dedicated to Frome, or is it someone stretched across a number of towns, as we once thought?
I haven't seen the advert, but I can check and get back to you.
Yeah, be good to know. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Adam. Relating to the 2-tier school system and linking it with the leisure centre, I had a meeting 2 days ago with Emma Reynolds, principal at Frome College. She has very, very grave concerns about the future of the leisure centre and how that will impact on the school. And when the leisure centre is spoken about, it's not really talked about as regards to Frome College. So I hope that, I'm sure you will, I'm sure you probably have, but the county also, consider that as to how that will operate going forward. Thank you.
Just, what did you say?
So yeah, that's a very important consideration because it's the leisure centre for the school, for the college, and their PE classes and so on. And there's been an issue recently, but obviously Fusion are not running it anymore, so
Yeah.
hopefully the aim is to have an improvement, a better situation going forward, definitely.
Great. Thank you for that update, Adam. Steve?
Close the loop on the leisure centre, because Peter and I met with the leisure centre following a note from Emma Reynolds a few weeks back regarding issues, and there's obviously 6 or 1/2 dozen other that would appear on some of the things. Even though Fusion are sort of going away, we're still carrying on with those meetings to try and work out the best way forward for everything and for everyone. Even though obviously situations have changed greatly since then in regards to ownership, but there is a dialogue going on between the two. Well, we're going to help with the two parties with the assistance of Somerset, so there is some stuff going on that.
So it's not looking like there's going to be a risk of it, even a temporary closure at the moment?
Not as far as I'm aware.
Anybody else? Marvellous. Okay, so let's move on to the first of our bigger items on the agenda. This is on outcomes from the recent public engagement for the Market Yard toilets, and I'm going to hand over to Peter.
So I'm going to introduce this, and I'm going to bring Rachel in to talk about the outcomes from the engagement exercise. Just a little bit of background, and you're probably already aware of this, but obviously 2 years ago, Somerset Council decided they didn't want to continue to operate the Market Yard toilets, and we, FTC, took them on because we felt that they were an important public facility. Suffice to say, we inherited quite ageing infrastructure, and the maintenance of those toilets was difficult because of that. But added to that, we experienced growing antisocial behaviour affecting our ability to keep the toilet cubicles open, and on many occasions had to close those cubicles because of that, because of the need to repair the damage incurred. We estimate that at one point the cost of maintaining the toilets exceeded £66,000 a year. So in July last year, councillors decided to close the block in the market yard whilst we explored potential future arrangements. And as an interim measure, we entered into a contract with the Cheese and Grain to maintain the changing places facility, the facility that's available for those with access issues. And also the Cheese and Grain opened their loos to the public. So that was an interim measure. And at the time when that decision was taken, we were committed to engaging with the community around what would happen in the future with regards to the block. So tonight we'll share the outcomes from that engagement and also our recommendations. Rachel will explain our approach to that engagement and also what the key outcomes were. And then I will talk to you about our recommended next steps. And obviously we'll take questions before we move to a vote. So I'm going to introduce Rachel now, Rachel Griffin, to come and tell us about the outcomes from the engagement.
Thanks, Peter. I think we've got a few slides, haven't we? So shall I have the clicker? There they are, the lovely public loos. So over the last 6 weeks, we asked our residents about our public loo provision. We launched My Frome with this, so we had lots of comments online. We also took comments from people on Facebook. We had a quick activity, and we had 2 in-person events where we managed to speak to 162 people. So, and there we are. There we've got some of our trusty councillors who came out and talked to everybody. Alongside the quick exercise, the in-depth exercise online, there was also a separate changing places conversation. And of course, what we really learnt, unsurprisingly, is that public toilets are really considered essential. We heard from the majority of people who frequent the town centre. Over 85% of users who frequent the town centre, primarily for shopping, cafes, markets, use the loos whilst they're there. So the use of the toilets is both high and routine. Our engagement included a broad cross-section of users, including families, older people, disabled people, and those with medical needs. For many, access to toilets is not optional. It determines whether they can spend time in the town at all. The data shows a clear concentration of demand in the town centre. The former market yard toilets were the most used facility by a significant margin, reflecting their convenience and their visibility. By contrast, the Cheese and Grain, which is now being used, is consistently described as a compromise. Okay, but not ideal, with perceived issues around distance, awareness, opening hours, and capacity. This is borne out in the headline in the papers, that 75% of respondents feel current provision is not sufficient, and over 70% say there are not enough toilets at busy times. Importantly, the data highlights that partnership provision alone does not meet the need. While valued, it lacks visibility and accessibility required for a town centre offer. So alongside this, there's a clear and consistent message about what good looks like. clean, safe, accessible, clearly signed toilets in a central location with sufficient capacity during events and peak times. Concerns about antisocial behaviour and safety also came through strongly, suggesting that simply reinstating the previous model risks repeating the same issues. Taken all together, this creates a compelling case for a reimagined approach. While refurbishment is attractive as a quick fix, the data suggests that people are not just asking for toilets to return, they're asking for something that works better. Borne out by the data, the reimagined site offers the opportunity to meet the high levels of demand, improve safety and accessibility, and create a more visible and welcoming solution. So, but it was very close. The results were very close, as you can see there. Creating a reimagined site just pips the refurbishing the existing market yard loose.
Thanks, Rachel. So when we took on the toilets back in 2024, we did so on a tenancy at will. That allows both parties to step away at will, basically. However, what we've been trying to negotiate is a 25-year lease that provides some certainty, and in particular certainty in the context of funding the provision of new toilets. And the proposed mechanism for this is for us at some point, provided that all the conditions are met, to apply for what is known as a PWLB loan, which is a Public Works Loan Board loan. I'm going to pass to Sarah at this point just to explain the significance of the lease and in particular the terms that we're seeking from Somerset Council to ensure that we can move forward with this idea of funding new toilet provision.
So if we take a loan out to refurbish the toilets, say for example it's 200,000, my understanding with the PWLB loan, and I am seeking confirmation from them on this, is that when you repay the loan, you pay the full amount, including all interest that would have been due over the 25 years. So if we take out a loan for 200,000, in a month's time, we have to repay 400,000. If Somerset give us a 25-year lease, the original terms were that they could take it back with, I think, a year's notice after about 3 years. And they agreed that they would repay us some of the original 200,000 that we might invest. When it became clearer to me that the full amount of the loan would be repayable, I went back to them and I said, we can't have a break clause. It would have to be for the 25 years to make a PWLB worthwhile. And if you were to want a break clause, then we would need the fuller compensation. And that is the sticking point at the moment on the lease, as far as I understand it.
Just to say, I have today been talking with the lead officer on devolution about this particular issue. And they have promised to pick this up with their colleagues and with councillors, the councillors that have a lead responsibility in this area. However, suffice to say that negotiations are still in progress, and we feel that it's absolutely critical for this project that Somerset Council provide a lease to us on suitable terms. Just to talk about next steps. So, as the paper suggests, we propose to establish what we're calling a Frome Riverside Advisory Group. So that's to guide the development of a deliverable scheme for toilet provision, but also to consider the wider vision for the Frome Riverside area. So that's the area around the Cattle Market car park, incorporating various venues around the car park, the riverbank, etc., with a view to that developing as a cultural and community destination. But the primary focus, certainly in the short term, will be on how we secure a scheme that will deliver the toilet provision that the local community have asked for. Move to the next slide. So, you'll see on that slide there is a more detailed brief in terms of the things that we will be asking that advisory group to do. And the idea is that they will work on that and then come back to council at a future date to suggest a way forward in terms of delivering on this scheme. At that point, I'll take questions.
Now it is, yeah, evening. Nick Dove, Frome Town Councillor. I absolutely agree that we need to have a solution to a central toilet provision. But I just worry this feels like we're kind of racing in a direction that won't allow us to fit it with the wider or broader Riverside vision. I know that Rachel and the team did their best, as did my colleagues, to engage and speak to people, but that's not the majority. That's a tiny number of Frome residents we spoke to. And it will be people who would necessarily come into the market yard at that time on the Saturday for the market. However, I accept we need to do something. I just worry that we're rushing too fast. And some of the things, the kind of key points are, have we actually do we have a proper structural assessment of the condition of that building? Do we actually know what it's going to cost? There's some of the figures thrown. I mean, Sarah just mentioned £200,000. Do we know that's the actual reality, or do we know it's going to be a lot more than that? Effectively, what is the indicative cost range for the Reimagine scheme? We're being asked to pursue a PWLB borrowing with no figure on the table, which is quite a big deal. A couple more things. What's the annual loan repayment cost be, do we think? Because that's £66,000 is the current running cost. If we carry it on, how does that compare? Sorry?
Sorry, I think it's 16,000 a year for 25 years.
Is the interest
Repayment.
loan repayment? That's great. Thank you very much. What is our fallback position if Somerset Council insists on a break clause? Do we know?
I think there were some earlier questions that I was going to pick up, Nick, if I may.
Oh, sorry, but yeah, okay.
So you expressed some concern that we were racing forward towards a solution. But actually, if you look at the recommendations in the paper, there are a number of steps which are in chronological order. So unquestionably, the first step is to ensure that we've got a lease arrangement with Somerset Council that means that we can raise the funding that's needed to be able to do something with the asset. So that's number one. And then once we're clear about that, we can then move to develop a costed design for the development, whatever that development may be. And clearly, we'd want to take into account the opportunity to use parts of the block and the adjoining apron for other things potentially that will help to animate that area and begin to address some of the antisocial behaviour issues that we've experienced. Then there comes an invite for tenders for the development. And it's only at that point when we're clear about the cost that we would submit an application for PWLB funding. So I think that there are quite a few steps that we need to work through, and that's something that the advisory group will take responsibility for. Naturally, we'll want to move forward as quickly as possible, but there are a number of dependencies in this project, and we've got to satisfy each one before we can move on and take the next step. And certainly, that's the approach that we would recommend.
Okay, yeah, thanks. That's answered a lot of the questions I was thinking about. My main concern is that we don't just pursue sorting out the toilets and not think about the bigger picture, but I think you've answered that in a way, progressing it. Thank you.
Thank you. I notice Fiona has her hand up.
Is that Are you coming to me? Yes. A couple of things. First of all, I just wanted to say how brilliant I thought the report was, and I think it's been really great to see my Frome put through its paces on this project. It was Go Vocal. We're the first town council to use Go Vocal, to sort of to subscribe to it and use it, and I just think it's absolutely brilliant. And I thought the report was really great, and I think it gave us demographic data, which I think is so important. And I think, Nick, to your point about a small percentage, it is, but it's over 500 people. And when you look at the demographic data, that is very well split across in terms of geography, in terms of age, in terms of gender, etc. And I think it also gave us an opportunity. What we've got back is very nuanced as well, and has allowed, as Rachel very succinctly sort of showed, to sort of dig into what people really want, like what is actually beyond things. It wasn't as simple as like, just, reopen the toilets or not. Like, this is quite a complicated question, and I think we were able to kind of really get to the bottom of it. And I think it gives us a really solid base for making a decision and decisions on this going forward, which I think is incredibly helpful. I also really appreciated that I got an email back because I had done the survey, I had done both, and I got an email back that said, this is the update, it's coming to council, these are the recommendations, which I just thought was really, really great that we're now able to do that. I think that toilets are fundamental, I think, to everyone. I always think about my dad, who is a little bit older. I've got to be careful because he's in the next room and can probably hear me saying this, but he needs to go. When he needs to go, he needs to go. And having access to accessible, reliable, clean, functional toilets is so important for him to feel able to sort of actually go out and do stuff. So I think that it is really important that we progress on this. I think the proposal allows us to kind of balance the fact that the current situation, the current cheese and grain, is, as people have said, is okay, but it's not meeting the need. And so to be able to progress on refurbishing a few of the toilets, while then also keeping our eye on the bigger picture, Nick, as you say, on that reimagined space and on the Riverside vision as a whole. And to allowing that to sort of take a bit more time to develop, because there's lots of things we could then do with the other parts of the block. But we have heard very, very clearly that toilets should be included in that block, whatever, going forward. So let's kind of get that done. And I just think it's really important. And I just thought the report was great, and it was really great to see my Frome used like this. And so I'm just excited to kind of get going with it. And I think that how it's all structured, as Peter said, means that we will take it one step at a time and work our way through it.
Thanks, Fiona. Thanks, Fiona. Andy Jones, I think you wanted to come in there.
Yeah, just very quickly, I'm supportive of the idea, just concerned that the brief focuses very much on capital cost, and I think it's important that when this does come back for any future decision, we're also fully aware of ongoing maintenance costs of the project.
Thank you, yeah. And Richard?
Thanks very much. Thank you for the report, which and it was really interesting speaking to people at the consultation at the market last Saturday. I think the report and the figures that are in the report have vindicated what myself and quite a few people in Frome have been saying, that and Fiona said this as well, that the provision from the cheese and grain is not what the public wants, and they do want to see public toilets in the market yard. So I think that's one sort of like positive thing that's come out of the report. The next thing that I'd like to sort of ask is, can you go into more detail about what changes you would make to like the security, the access, and stopping antisocial behaviour, etc., at sort of like a reimagined toilets in Frome in the future? And my final point is, I don't think it's acceptable to sort of sort of say at some point in the future that, you know, a report will come back to the council. I'd much rather see a definite date by which, you know, the advisory group has got recommendations so that the council can see that there is progress on this really important issue. Thank you very much.
Rachel, Sarah, Peter, does anyone want to come back to Richard?
Well, we can't put a time on anything because we don't currently have the lease, as Sarah explained. So there is that. Obviously, when we're reimagining it, part of the group's whole remit will be to make sure that antisocial behaviour is sort of designed out of however the site is reimagined. So that will be in definition delivered in the brief.
Presumably we'll be looking for that in any tenders that we...
In any
put out,
tenders,
so that'll come
absolutely.
from that, won't it?
Yeah.
Does that answer your question, Richard? Yeah, I think so. Lindsay, just a second. Polly first.
I really support putting together a councillor advisory group with councillors and officers as well, because there was such a strength of feeling when we had to close them, and we're still, you know, routinely explaining why in, you know, every channel that we possibly can as to why and why it wasn't feasible to keep them open. So I just think it's really important that we show that we are sort of striding ahead with what is a kind of many-layered problem. And, you know, I really support it because I really appreciate the fact that we're going to be, it's in the limelight now, you know, like this, and we're going to keep bringing it back.
Thank you, Polly. Lindsay, Lenka, Steve.
I was just going to ask about the toilets in Victoria Park. Have they been effective against vandalism?
Apparently so, but somebody else is probably better placed to answer. Just a moment, sir. Can anyone come back to Lindsay on that? Rachel?
We did yesterday, I think.
They certainly do have some antisocial problems, but they are designed to be very easily cleaned, very easily sorted. There's not too much sticking out in the way of anything to be knocked off in the way that some of the other loos are. But yeah, it is, I mean, antisocial behaviour is a real problem. I think when we talk about a reimagined site, sort of embedded into the notion of designing out antisocial behaviour is how we design the block, how we reimagine the block. It could be that there is something else there that means by definition there is a presence there. That's all part for the remit, so I don't want to second guess that, but rather than it being just a toilet block, I think that is part of the...
Yep. Thank you, that's interesting, thank you.
I will come back to you, sir, but I've got two on the list first, and then Adam. Lenka.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask about the changing places toilet. What was the update about that?
The changing places, it was very, very close, but I think we are happy to say that actually and I mean it was very close, as in 2 in it. I can't remember the exact figures, but people have indicated that it would be very hard for them to use the changing places if there was a keypad in place. So I think it's one of those things that we'll need to keep going back to revisit and to check back in on. But currently, at the moment, it's staying as is.
Okay, and secondly, I just wanted to back up what Richard was saying with regard to, what, you know, currently we've got a massive drug problem in Frome, and the drug taking in the toilets and the changing places toilet, which means that people can't use it, is a big issue. So, you know, that needs to be very, very important to see how we go with that, go with the new facility.
Once again, we would absolutely hope that the presence of people will stop that sort of antisocial behaviour as well as vandalism.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Steve? Okay, thank you. And then it was the gentleman in the blue shirt.
My name's John Warman. I'm just a local resident. I'm a frequent user of the park, and I have to say that the new toilets are a credit. There has been some vandalism. There's certainly, in the early days, there was graffiti, but that's been rapidly cleaned up, and I've not seen it of late. And as for the design of the toilets, they do seem to be working very well. Now, whether they're that design is particularly good can only be told in the long term, but certainly it's been a few years and they do seem to work extremely well. So credit to the council for providing those toilets, which I know were requested by a lot of people who use the park.
That's good to hear, thanks, sir. Adam, and then the lady in the cream.
Thank you. There's mention of a lease, and I know there's discussions going on at Somerset Council right now, and there's various different layers of governance for officer, legal, property, and members as well. And I'll do my bit, and I'm sure others like Martin Dimmery and other councillors for Frome will do our bit to try and make sure that there's a good outcome for the town, not just the interests of each organisation, each council, but it's the residents and the businesses and the visitors to Frome, that we all need good facilities, and that there has to be a good outcome. I know we're talking about this in a few weeks, but there will be a decision before that. So summit to talk about, perhaps. Thanks.
Thanks, Adam. Yes, the lady in the middle now. I need a microphone. Sorry, there you go.
Hi. So I'm a local resident, I'm disabled and I currently live in my car. So my question was, as they've brought up the public toilets in the park, would it be possible maybe to keep the disabled toilet open past a certain time? And I know that there has been question of could they put a keypad, and that has been raised that wouldn't be able to be done, but could you not do what we used to do in the 90s and maybe put a blue light in there for unable to use drug use, etc.? Or would there not be something that would be able to be done that would negate a huge cost?
Anyone got any thoughts on that?
I think it's something we can certainly look into.
Thank you, Steve.
During the engagement, I spoke to a chap at Warminster Town Council who was in Frome, and he said that they have just repurposed some of their toilets. We were talking about having and the fact that you can't have cameras inside the toilets, and he said that there has now been whatever they've done where they do have cameras either inside the toilets or right on the door of the toilets, so they can identify anybody who's going in and causing vandalism. A picture is taken before and after or something like that. I said I'd follow up with him, but I think in terms of vandalism, there are solutions. I don't know what they are, but I think there are solutions now.
Okay, and we're looking at those.
We'll look at those.
Thank you, thanks, Steve. Does that help answer your question? Thank you. Any other comments before we look? Any other comments? Any questions actually on the recommendations? They're quite detailed. Any comments or questions on those?
Perhaps a brief...
Microphone, sir, please.
Sorry, I know Mr. Pinnock asked about setting a deadline, which I can see there are difficulties with that, but perhaps there could be an update in 3 months, 4 months, something like that, just to underscore the progress.
Okay, I think then we'll need to propose an amendment to the recommendations for that. Bear with us a second. Rachel, were you going to come in there? Okay, should we do that then? Can somebody propose an amendment to the recommendations that we include an update in 3 months? 3 months, is that? Hang on, Richard, hang on. With putting some sort of time frame on it.
Yeah, I'd suggest maybe leave 6 as it is about bringing back a paper, but table something for at least a verbal update in 90 days' time.
So we need to make an amendment for that.
Yeah,
So
On the basis that a lot of this evolves around the lease from Somerset Council, can we come back next month and ask for an update from Somerset Council with regards to the lease? I think we need to put some pressure on them.
we can certainly put it in, and Adam will bring his inestimable powers to bear, I'm sure. Can somebody propose that as an amendment then, please, that we bring an update on Somerset Council's lease decision to council next month? Nick Dove to propose that. Steve to second. Everyone in favour? Everyone in favour?
That's unanimous. That's on the amendment.
Thank you for that suggestion, sir, and I've incorporated that into the recommendations. We got that wording?
Yeah.
Any other questions about those recommendations? Okay. So we are including that new amendment to bring an update on the lease to next council. Can we take a vote on the recommendations? Can somebody propose that we accept them? Anne Hills, seconded by Mark Dorrington. All those in favour?
It's unanimous.
Also unanimous. Item complete. Thank you very much, everybody. Moving on to item 6 on the agenda. This is an update on Badgers Hill, and we go first to Fiona, I believe.
Yes, you do. Hold on. Sorry.
That's
one
good.
sec. Is that? Hold on. Yes. Okay. So first of all, I think I definitely saw David, you in the room earlier. I don't know if anyone else is there from Frome Town AFC, but I just wanted to say a huge congratulations. As last night, Frome Town, so is it AFC or FC? I'm getting so confused with all the things. AFC won the Somerset Cup in the same season as they have also topped the Southern League, and that is an achievement that has never been seen before in the club's history. So it's really a remarkable achievement and something that they and indeed the whole town can be proud of. So I just want to say congratulations to them on that. Thank you. I also just wanted to clarify a few things because I think, to be honest, I've been quite disheartened by some of the comments I've been reading recently on social media regarding this project. There seems to be a great deal of misinformation making the rounds, and I just kind of wanted to bring it back to the fact and the shared goal that we all have here. So stepping into Save Badgers Hill in 2022 was not an easy decision for us to make, and I don't think it's one that many councils would have made. But we knew that if we didn't act, then bailiffs would have been there the next morning and we all would have lost Badgers Hill for good and probably the football club along with it. This was a significant risk for the council and we were fully aware of that at the time. However, we did it because we understood what this site means to our community. It sits in an area of Frome with limited social and community infrastructure, and it serves people who are often not reached by other forms of support. Football also has an amazing ability to support people's mental health, to create a feeling of belonging, and to strengthen community. And we can see that impact really clearly at Badgers Hill. I will always be proud of us as a council for taking this risk, however difficult, and I think that's possibly an understatement, this project has been at times. However, as we have now invested over £400,000 of the town's money, so this is money that belongs not to us as a council, but to the whole town, plus helping to secure almost £500,000 in grant funding, none of us want to see Badgers Hill at risk again. And that is a possibility if we put it in the hands of any organisation that is not financially stable enough, nor has the funds to manage and invest in the site properly. That is why when we opened it up to offers, we made this a very, very clear requirement. And unfortunately, as the paper sets out, neither of the bids we received were able to demonstrate the level of robust business planning nor verified financial backing required to give us that level of confidence. But I just wanted to reassure everyone and say that we're still working really hard to find a solution. And we obviously really want football to continue at Badgers Hill. So as an update today, we did send a proposal to Frome Town FC, setting out what we believe is a fair and practical way forward. And we're now awaiting their response. And that is an update as of a few hours ago. So that is as far as we are. Thank you.
Thank you, Fiona. Any questions? Comments? Lenka?
Hi there. Yeah. So because I, got a bit bored and didn't think I'd had enough to do, I joined the committee at the football club. And I'm the Equalities and Diversity Monitor along with Ryan Atkins, who some of you may know. And I have to say that I've been really impressed, welcomed. The current team that's in place, the management, the volunteers, the board, all the people at the football club at the moment have worked incredibly hard, and the change has been amazing. It's at the best it ever has been, I think. The number of groups that are now up there at the football club, the children, loads of children who go in for free to watch football, the attendance is massive. Just the strong social return, that was listed as one of the things on the bid. Louise, that's been managing the kitchen, the holiday sessions we had last week. Everyone is so welcoming, supportive, really flexible with our bookings, and just helps so much. I think this there's the inclusive football team providing mascots this Saturday. There's going to be a great celebration. So in terms of, and the volunteers that have been given different positions and encouraged to take part, I'm just really, really impressed. And so I just wanted to really express that I think the team, the BHL team, limited team that are there, and the health and safety, I understand from one of the meetings that Alistair confirmed, that's been checked every month. There's been a lot of work and money spent on the building, and it's really uncertain. It's really hard to move forward with our plans. We've got so many plans about different groups using the building to start a cafe, especially in that area. I've already mentioned it to Hannah on the communities team. St John's is one of our areas of deprivation, and we really need to expand, but it's just really uncertain at the moment. So I'm just really asking, can we really work towards getting a solution sorted out that's fair to everybody? But there has been, a lot of investment already by the current management. So I think I've covered everything. Yeah. Did you want to say anything?
Just to emphasise that, we acknowledged receipt of the email this afternoon, obviously give that great consideration. It's been challenging, but I think, I said to someone recently, it's trying to turn an oil tank, which is not really the best thing with the Hormuz stuff at the moment, but it's trying to turn it round. I think we're halfway round, and with a little bit of help and negotiation and conversation, which I think is more important than anything else, we will get it right. We've had a remarkable season on the field, and part of that, and our manager recently referred to it, is everyone's working together off the field in the same direction. There's no one causing trouble, and if there's a problem, we solve it. By talking and having the odd laugh, which is the only way. If we're all volunteers, that gets forgotten. So we've had a remarkable success on the field, but part of that is because everyone's together off the field, and I'm sure with your help, we will get to that solution, and we will make this town proud again next season. I can't guarantee 31 wins in a row in the Southern League Prem, but we'll give it a go. But thank you. Oh, and I must, of course, and I mentioned it in the public post a couple of days ago, that in fact, to the invitation to people to come to the ground, that we do desperately recognise that without Frome Town Council's help, we wouldn't be in the situation we're in now, and that's something we'll be deeply grateful for forever. So thank you.
Thank you for those comments. Fiona, did you want to come back on any of that?
Hold on. Yes, sorry. No, yeah, just to say, so great to Lenka. I completely so great to hear your point of view. And also I spoke with you and Ryan, and we are hearing that it's really thriving and really buzzing there. And we do, that I do see how much work has gone in, particularly from sort of the volunteers in the community. And it is amazing to see, and I think we do really recognise that. And I just kind of wanted to flag up that we do really recognise that. It is just, you know, as Lenka said, it's about finding a deal that works and you know, and is fair for everyone. And really for us, it's also, you know, when you talk about it, like, it is such an important asset to this community, and we're just trying so hard to make sure that it is not put at risk again, because that, you know, after all the work that's gone into it, that would really be absolutely yeah, a horrible situation. And thank you, David, for what you said. Yeah, I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks everyone who's contributed to that. Any more comments before we move on to the next item? Yes, sir. Yes, could somebody pass the gentleman a microphone, please?
Thank you, Adam. Yes, vested interest. I'm a Frome Town supporter. I'm encouraged by what I've heard, because obviously it is of great concern, and it's good to hear that both parties are working together. I don't know what the gap is between what is acceptable and what is being achieved. All I understand is that both sides are working towards it. I think Lenka's comments are really helpful and do underscore the importance of getting other groups in, both from the social point of view and also, of course, the finances. And that can help enormously with the club, and to provide all those criteria that you want regarding the social aspects, but also, hopefully, to make the club survive. Running a football club at any level is problematic. And I think it's of great credit to the volunteers that I'm not involved in that, I just support. And I think it is a great credit to them. And I do hope to hear that both sides have reached an acceptable agreement before very long.
We all hope for that, sir. Yeah. Thank you for your comments. Okay, on to the next agenda item, if there's nothing else on the football club. This is to approve a review of the management structure, and I'm handing over to Peter for this one.
Just to say that I won't talk in any depth about this. Hopefully the report is relatively self-explanatory in terms of what is being proposed. I should just add one, I think, very important point to the report, which should have been included. The fact that it was omitted, I apologise for, but councillors will be aware that there is a commitment to a review of staff structure in this year's work programme. That was actually approved back in February when the work programme and budget was approved, although there wasn't a budget sum set aside that particular activity. Now I've been promoted to town clerk, it seems an appropriate point to take stock, especially as there are gaps in our management structure and gaps in our management capacity. And we should be asking the question, does our current management structure align with our strategic priorities? The proposal before you is to engage an organisation called, I need to just check this because it's quite a long title, Council HR and Governance Support, or CHRGS for short. Some of you may recognise this organisation because it's the one that was involved in the recruitment of the town clerk. And so, as the report indicates, they're very familiar with the organisation. They understand what our aspirations are. They understand what we're trying to achieve. And they've also been involved with a considerable number of earlier management reviews in other organisations within the sector, some 40 plus reviews in those in the sector, as I say. And the proposal is to engage them and for them to work with our improvement advisory group, which was set up back in October of last year to consider ways in which we could improve our operation efficiency and effectiveness. So it seems appropriate that the Improvement Advisory Group should get involved in this particular project. And as you'll have read, the proposal is for some proposals to be developed and for those to come back to council at a future date. Difficult for me to say when that date will be, but we'll obviously try and move this forward as quickly as possible, provided, of course, that councillors approve. So that's all I was going to say about the project, and obviously I'll take questions.
It might seem odd on an evening when we've been talking about huge sums of money to object to this relatively small item. However, I see this report was jointly authored by Peter, our newly appointed, I think, town clerk, or does that come at the end of the agenda? But anyway, our town clerk, and you, Fiona. Obviously, Peter has experience of managing a number of people. I'm not sure, Fiona, what your experience is of this. And I ask this very simply because the report's assertion that 7 direct reports is unusual or unsustainable is actually stated without any evidence or benchmarking. It's presented as self-evident when it isn't. There's no benchmarking data, no comparable councils, no reference to any recognised management theory or sector guidance is offered. The reality is more nuanced. 7 direct reports is not inherently excessive, as it depends on things like the nature of the roles. Managing 7 relatively autonomous, experienced professionals is very different from managing 7 people who need close day-to-day supervision. We're lucky we've got very skilled and experienced staff running the different departments. We don't have staff at different locations around the world, around the country, or different geographic locations, to make it more complicated. For the issue around the seniority of the manager, a town clerk role is expected to operate at a strategic level, and senior leaders in many organisations routinely manage teams of this size or larger. From my own extensive experience, as in of managing people, many large groups of people over many years, and supported by up-to-date research into what's known as the span of control, 7 is very average. It's not excessive. And our work isn't complicated by factors that would make that more challenging. As our new permanent town clerk has now been appointed, I think the interim problem that's mentioned arguably resolves itself. You, Peter, can simply restructure your own direct reports as you see fit. I don't get the case that for an expensive external review has to automatically follow. And actually, crucially, why haven't the Improvement Advisory Group been consulted about this before bringing it to council? I'm actually slightly embarrassed it's come to a council meeting. Quite what the public will think about proposing to spend thousands of pounds on what I see as an entirely unnecessary exercise is beyond me. Let's just donate it to Frome.
Fiona, do you want to come back to that?
Yeah, I'll come back to. So first of all, your point about my management experience. I have none. I don't think I've ever managed a person in my life, and I think that is part of why this suggestion is that, it's first of all, it's jointly authored by me and Peter, because there is both an operational angle to it and a political angle to it. Because the political angle is around, we've asked that all new hires come through us as a council and that we have a say over them. So, and we have all raised concerns and are very conscious of our staff budget and are very, very keen to keep that under control. So there is a political angle to this, along with an operational, which, as you say, is Peter structuring the management staff as he wishes, which is why it's jointly authored. And then coming back to my point that, I have and I think that's no management experience here. And I think that's part of why, this is necessary, is that this is a piece of work. It is not thousands of, it's £4,000. It is, I agree. It is, I'm not going to wish, that away, because I do actually agree that it is a portion of money, but it is that we shouldn't be spending sort of, just, on anything. But it is, sorry, I'm really tired. So can I just apologize now? I'm really tired. I'm losing my thread slightly, a little bit. Sorry. It is this is a piece of work that is very task and finish. There are very clear outcomes. It's a piece of work that we don't currently have the capacity or perhaps the sort of the necessary skills within us as a council to do ourselves. So we're proposing to go out to use a consultant in order to bring in their expertise. On the 7 line managers, that is a direct quote from CHGS, who are the experts in this. They, do this exercise for a number of councils, and they, said to us that they think that that is very unusual, and that, that's where that is coming from. So it's coming from experts in this industry, which I think is really important. And this is a piece of work that we've been talking about doing for years, looking at our staff structure. Does it match up with our strategic priorities? And I think that starts with the management structure and then goes out to the broader staff structure of that, which I think we can absolutely do ourselves. But getting that management structure right is so important. And it is, we have grown organically over the last few years. We've all said this is part of why we've got the improvement and transformation plan, is that, we have grown organically, and lots of the managers have had bits sort of added onto their roles as they've gone on. And I think a number of those roles have become quite unwieldy now. Mark Dorrington has mentioned this, but before hiring our new environment manager, who's not actually that new at all now, we looked at his role, at his job description, and went through it very carefully to make sure that it really made sense. We did the same thing with our climate action lead when we did that, but because a number of our managers have stayed in post for quite a long time, which is great, we haven't looked at their job descriptions in quite a long time, and that means that a number of them are quite unwieldy. So to me, this is just sort of closing the loop and finishing up and doing a piece of work that I think is really necessary, and is a small amount, and is is spending some money, but I think we will get that money back in terms of efficiency savings and effectiveness savings, and saving on staff salaries, and because we're actually getting what we need, we're recruiting what we really need to come in.
Nick, are you coming back on that?
Yeah, thank you, Fiona. And I'm sorry you're feeling tired. I don't wish to make your evening longer. There's a number of points around that, and the one you didn't refer to is why we weren't consulted as an improvement advisory group. But the issue around the financing, the sum starts at 4,000 something, 4,800. But my favourite phrase is opportunity cost. So this is going to tie up staff for a number of hours, if not days. The work that Mark did with Rob in that role was done in-house. We didn't need to buy in consultants. The agency you refer to, without in any way being rude about them, you could say they would say that, wouldn't they? Because they're looking for work. If you do any research or the experience that myself and I'm sure other colleagues who manage people, 7 to 10 is a very standard thing of line reports. I don't want to drag the evening out any longer because I suspect I'm not going to necessarily be in a majority on this, but I just feel it is something that will be disruptive and is unnecessary, and says to a wider audience listening into this that we are a little bit loose with money on something I don't think we need to spend it on.
I completely disagree. That's what it says. I think it says that we want to be as effective as a team as possible and as efficient as a team as possible. And to do that, we need a really strong management structure that has been really considered. To me, it just says the exact opposite of that. In terms of the improvement advisory group, this is in the work programme, and it is something that we had previously agreed. And in an ideal world, yes, it would have gone through. It was a timings issue that it didn't. I did let the improvement advisory group know, because it wasn't sort of unanimous. That's why it's come to council. But also, so that's that question, whether or not it should have got. I don't think that's really to argue with now. But I think that this doesn't say that at all. I think that this is, we have said for a while now, we are a council that is in transition. That is what we have really recognised, and we're not the same council as we were 5-10 years ago. And there comes a point where you just have to take a pause and go, okay, how do we make sure that we are future-proofing ourselves for the future? How can we be as effective and efficient as possible with our staff structure? And I think it's fair to say it's feeling a little bit clunky right now, and there's lots of different options as to what way we could go. But personally, I would really like an expert's opinion on that, because I don't have that experience, and I don't think that many of us do. And I think that councils are quite unique bodies in many ways, and I think it's just about us bringing in the experts and getting someone in to give us that advice, so we can make really strong, so the improvement advisory group can have a look at those recommendations and make those recommendations to council, and we'll know that we're getting in the right roles and the right people for the future. Peter, can I ask you to come in if there's anything I've missed?
Actually, can I ask Steve to come in first? Sorry, Fiona.
Yeah, no, of course.
I think Fiona said a lot of what I was going to say. I mean, I just see this as the last sort of piece in the jigsaw that started off when we looked at the staff bands about 2 years ago, which went on to the, the improvement advisory group. And I disagree with the gentleman earlier. It wasn't highly critical. It raised some really interesting points, I thought. And then obviously we've had a new town clerk. And to me, changing the management structure and looking at it is the last piece of the jigsaw. And, having gone through all the other bits, I think it would be, it just wouldn't be right to just carry on as we are and look in-house. I think using the people that we used before, they obviously work very well. I don't see it as a huge amount. Obviously, any money is a huge amount of money, but I do agree we'll get it back in savings.
Thank you. Philip?
Thank you. When I looked at this, when I read through this, I thought this is good because, we're doing something positive. We're building on previous reports. And I was going to make a comment, which was hopefully this is something with the consultants that will be done with us, not to us. But having listened now to Nick and Fiona particularly, I am slightly concerned because the term management structure is being used, but what's not actually being discussed is management. What's being discussed is workloads. And it seems to me that, to future-proof by getting certain people in certain positions to do certain areas and being more effective and efficient is all very well. But I thought the whole point of this was to have a more efficient management structure, not people's workloads or job descriptions. And now I'm actually a little bit more confused than I was at the beginning.
Agreed. Peter, would you like to come in?
Is to look at the whole shooting match, really. Hopefully, I'd hoped that the report had set that out, that it is about looking at the management structure, but looking at the gaps within the current management team. We've got to decide whether we stick with the current job descriptions for those vacant posts, or whether we develop them further. Whether they're now fit for purpose. For example, with regards to the post of Economic Development and Regeneration Manager, which I previously held, is that earlier job description now appropriate? Or should we look at something different? Should we look at a different line management arrangement for whoever is delivering that work? So I think in answer to the question, we would want to look across the board and make sure that if we do have to make changes, we make changes once and not have to keep revisiting this subject on a number of occasions.
Quickly, if I may, but it's how those roles are managed. It's not how those roles are implemented and workload. It's how they're managed. That's what I'm...
That's certainly part of it, yeah.
Holly?
When I read it, I felt that it was partly in mind of efficiency, etc., but partly in mind of transparency and sort of safeguarding the council against, falling foul of, assuming that it's kind of got it right within, even if it came out to be a mere confirmation that we were doing exactly the right thing, at least then we would have sought external sort of approval that we were going in the right direction, but it's more likely to be a shake-up of some kind, of some level, just because as any public body grows, and its budget grows, it becomes under more scrutiny. Transparency is key, and I can't think of any public body that does so brilliantly just on its own, looking, I don't want to be critical of the police in general, but like, you know, just sort of coming back on what you're saying is that as if to say like, oh, we're all capable, quite capable with the skills that we have, isn't necessarily so in the end. And lots of councils at sort of unitary or county level are really, really struggling and perhaps should have sought advice at an earlier stage. So I kind of thought that it was about checking in, making sure that we were growing in the right way and that we were doing that transparently and that it was going to help us and the public know that we were doing it correctly. I think that's money well spent.
Thank you, Polly. Mark, last point on this before we go to the vote.
Thank you. Yeah, Fiona mentioned that I did some work when we recruited the new environment manager. We realised that to use another cliche, mission creep, rather than opportunity cost. The previous incumbent had taken on all sorts of different jobs and he wasn't able to do his own job to the full extent of his ability. So we refined Rob's job description, his roles and responsibilities, and he knows exactly where he stands now and his staff know where they stand with him. It would be useful to do the same exercise for the rest of the management group. We may find efficiencies, we may find that people could be better deployed or their work goes to a different manager. And so hopefully this will pay for itself insofar as that. It also addresses the point that the gentleman made before he left, saying that we'd ignored the criticism of the peer review and said that we hadn't done anything about it. Well, this is what we're doing about it to some extent. We've had our own advisory group. We're now having somebody look at it from the outside. I mean, I and other people in this room were involved in the recruitment of the town clerk, and we worked with this group before, and we really felt they added value and told us a lot of things that we hadn't thought about in our own insular little world. So to have some transparency and somebody looking from the outside onto us, I think this may help us. In a year's time, this council will look quite different, I should think, or 12 months, 13 months, could look a lot different. So we need to be match fit for when that happens. So I would happy to support this.
Okay, we've heard some various viewpoints. Now I'm going to take it to. Is it something that's not been said? Yes. Okay.
Thank you very much. Look, I won't go on any more about this. And my point is, if we had recruited somebody externally who hadn't worked in Frome Town Council, I'd think about this differently. But we've recruited someone, which I'm very thrilled about, who's been here for as long as I've been a councillor, so at least 7 years, very experienced, has been the acting town clerk for months and is now the town clerk. If I was you, I would want to do this myself. And I'm also concerned about the impact on staff when we talk about changes and stuff like that. That's kind of quite worrying, because, we have some brilliant staff here. I appreciate we do need to look at them. But anyway, I'll say no more. Thank you very much for your time.
I think it's important for me to say that I also value all of our managers, and and they should not feel that this proposal is a reflection on their performance because they're exemplary as a group. And I think it's important also for me to say that depending upon the direction that the vote goes in, we'll see what happens in a few moments. My intention is to keep the management team informed and involved throughout the process, that they will have the opportunity to put forward their views and their ideas in terms of how we can make this organisation even better than it currently is. And I wanted to say that because I appreciate that sometimes that there may be concerns, there may be worries about what the future might bring. What I would say to all of our managers is you will be involved, you will be informed, and you will have an opportunity to influence the outcome.
Thank you, Peter. Okay, I'm going to go to the vote. We've lost the recommendation off the back screen. Is it stood up there? Has everyone read that and understands it? Can I have somebody to propose? Mark Dorrington, seconded by Andy Jones. Everyone in favour? I'm abstaining.
that's a majority. I just ask those that haven't voted for, are they voting against or abstaining?
Any votes against? 2.
2 against.
And I'm
You're
abstaining.
abstaining. Okay, we'll record that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, item 8, to agree an amendment to standing orders to enable councillors to vote online for formal meetings. And I believe this is you, Andy.
Yeah, I've picked up this particular one based on some previous conversations. I'm going to assume everybody's read the paper,
Absolutely.
which is really brave of me, but there we go. This came up because there's clearly a disparity between the Local Government Act, which actually was implemented the year I left school, which is a hell of a long time ago.
1972?
Well, 74 was when it was implemented, so yeah. And of course, there's been a lot of equality legislation since then, which in my view supersedes those archaic rules. I mean, this was created before the internet existed. And all this is saying is, we've now got the Equalities Act, which introduced the 9 protected characteristics. Long-term illness is considered as a disability within that act. We've checked with NALC and we've seen public government consultations on this. There's a clear direction of travel that says remote voting is going to be enabled. All we're doing is being Frome and doing it early. You know, it's the basis of local democracy. Frome's electorate voted Fiona to be their representative. We voted Fiona to be our leader, and she currently can't vote on papers before this council. It's, you know, preposterous. Having said that, what we're actually proposing is a very limited and controlled process. It's subject to this council's vote for each individual situation. And we're also holding implementation subject to final guidance from NALC's legal team, who wouldn't speak to us directly but had to go through SALC before we could even speak to them, hey-ho. So that's why I'm saying let's just do it.
Any questions, or can we just go straight to a vote on this one? Yes, Martin Dimery lurking in the back there. Microphone, Mr. D.
Thank you. Yeah, Martin Dimbley, Somerset Council. I think I entirely agree with everything Andy said, and Fiona's made a tremendous contribution from home today. So, you know, nobody can deny that. I'm just a bit worried about the legality of it. I think that needs to be brought up because we've questioned this at Somerset, and we're not allowed to vote if we're out of the room. Mm-hmm. And the problem could be, and I'm being a harbinger of doom here, but if you have an important, vital, say a budget issue, and it's a divided vote, and the casting vote goes to somebody out of the room, that may not be legal. So I think you've got to be quite careful in overriding current rules, however ridiculous they may be. So that's my point.
Yes.
Just to say that we've picked up on that risk, Martin, but thank you for raising it. And we wanted to ensure that within the amendment to standing orders that there would be no eligibility for a casting vote on the basis that all meetings will be chaired in person. So that under the amended standing orders, that situation wouldn't arise. The chair would not be remote and therefore would not be able to apply a casting vote.
Yeah, I do need to come back on that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Casting vote, yes, but maybe decisive vote would be a better term than casting vote. Because if there's one vote in it, it can be questioned. You see my point? It doesn't have to be casting.
Andy, have you got anything to add about that?
No, sorry. It's on. This new technology working. Yeah. It's a valid point, but equally, we're at risk currently, I think, of somebody objecting under the Equalities Act to say that what we're doing is unfairly unfair under the terms of that Equalities Act. So, you know, it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. It just feels like the right time to make a change.
And Salk, was it Salk or Nelk?
Certainly, what we've heard via Salk from NALC is that the expectation is that this will be included in the King's speech in the coming parliamentary session.
Okay. So, yeah, all right, good. Okay, let's go to a vote then, please. Can I have somebody to propose that we accept this recommendation? Andy Jones, seconded by Polly Lamb. All those in favour?
It's unanimous.
Yeah, that's everyone. Great. Okay, the next one is Laura to approve the annual review of the staff and councillor protocol. Do we approve? As Laura would say, you've read the report, what do you think? Are there any questions for Laura on the report that you've all read? Any questions? No, should we go straight to a vote on that one then? Proposed to accept by Steve Tanner, seconded by Philip Campagna. Everyone in favour? That's all of us. Phew, I think that was the quickest item ever. And then similar, Laura, final approval of the calendar of meetings for 26-27. You've all read the list. Do we like it? Can we have a proposer? Lindsay, seconded by Richard Pinnock. All those in favour? Also unanimous.
Get those meeting invitations in my calendar, please.
Great. And then our very last item is to ratify the appointment of the town clerk. And Fiona, I think you're coming in on this.
Yes, it happened slightly earlier, but I just want to take the opportunity to congratulate Peter on his appointment. And also just to thank CHGS, who were absolutely brilliant in providing us support. They've already been mentioned tonight. And also councillors Andy Jones, Mark Dorrington and Lindsay Mayhew as well for all of their support in the process. It wasn't a small undertaking. We did an incredibly robust and thorough process, and it did involve a huge amount of work. So I just want to say thank you to them. And yeah, I'm just really thrilled.
Great, echoed, I think, on all of our behalves. Thank you and congratulations. Do we ratify this appointment? I think we do. Would anyone like to say the first yes? Anne? Philip Campagna to second. Everyone in favour of ratification? That's a big fat yes. And on that lovely upbeat note, the next meeting is Wednesday, the 27th of May, 26 at 7 p.m. I hereby officially close this meeting. Thank you very much, everybody.